Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In today's video I will once again be picking apart a couple of videos here on YouTube that seek to undermine the widely adopted and accepted theory of evolution. I will be analyzing two videos that attempt to and ultimately fail to debunk the theory of evolution. This video is not an attack on any religious beliefs besides any that hinder scientific progress, and is instead seeking to correct any misinformation regarding the theory of evolution. Before continuing any further, I have to let you all know that just over 5% of my viewers are subscribed. Subscribing to my channel would help me a great amount, and it would make you a lot cooler. Alright, so this first video that we're going to be looking at is titled, "This is Why Evolution is Wrong!" And it is by the channel Tomorrow's World Viewpoint.
The origin of life is a much debated topic. Some have dedicated...
It is, but this is completely irrelevant to evolution. Literally 4 seconds into the video, and you can already tell that they are going to employ the most common strawman argument that creationists love to peddle to their followers. The only way these people can disprove evolution is by completely misrepresenting what evolution actually means. Instead of describing evolution as the process in which populations of organisms diversify within a species and/or undergo speciation, this video describes abiogenesis as being a component of evolution, which is false. Evolution does not seek to answer the question as to where life originates, and the process of evolution accounts for selection of already existing organisms and not non-living matter.
Dedicated their lives to finding an answer. Others write the question off as unanswerable. Just what is the probability of life occurring spontaneously from non-life with the ability to reproduce? We should remember that just because something exists does not mean the probability of the event is 100%.
Okay, so I've just went and watched the rest of the video, and all he does is talk about the improbability of abiogenesis, which is entirely irrelevant to the occurrence of evolution. And since the contents are not relevant, I will not waste your time with the rest of the video. Next, we're going to be looking at the video titled, "Memorable Keys to the Farce of Evolution," by the channel Bible Answer Man.
Hello everybody, this is Hank Hennegraaff, President of the Christian Research Institute, host of the Bible Answer Man broadcast, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Our studio's there. If you're ever in Charlotte, North Carolina, come visit us. You can watch the show, by the way, live in Charlotte, North Carolina. At our offices, we have a viewing gallery. I want to talk to you for a moment about the farce of evolution, a flip chart that I've developed. And instead of getting into all of the details, let me simply say this. I use farce as a memorable way by which you can internalize the reasons evolution is untenable in an age of scientific enlightenment. Let me give it to you real quickly. The F represents fossil follies, which is to say, the fossil record simply says no. There are transitions within kinds, but not from one kind to another kind. A cat doesn't evolve into a dog or vice versa.
Okay, so the video immediately loses all legitimacy at this point by referring to all categories of animals as kinds. Kinds is a biblical term and not a biological one. Arguments against evolution utilize vague terms like kinds in combination with irrelevant things such as abiogenesis, which is what was mentioned in the previous video, to confuse the viewer and make the argument for evolution appear much weaker than it actually is. And this is the mother of all strawman arguments, as no legitimate biologist or anybody with 9th grade level biology knowledge would ever make the argument that a cat could produce a dog. This statement was a sad attempt to make evolutionary biologists sound absurd, when in reality all it did was demonstrate how lacking in knowledge he is in the basic fundamentals of evolution.
Versa. The A represents ape men, fiction, fantasies, and frauds. The irony is that the icon of the knuckle-dragging ape evolving into a human being has been pictured so many times in magazines like Time and newspapers and textbooks that the icon has actually become the argument. But truthfully, as you'll see in the flip chart, it's a dogmatic assertion. It's not a defensible argument.
These last 30 seconds of just complete ineptitude are going to do irreversible damage to my brain. To make the assertion that the very misleading graphic, The March of Progress, is the argument made today by modern-day evolutionary biologists is laughably absurd. The March of Progress does not properly demonstrate any arguments made by modern-day biologists, and it makes no sense to pretend that it is looked up to and referenced by evolutionary biologists. All the man did by saying this was show just how little he researched before doing this video.
The R stands for recapitulation, known by the popular evolutionary cliche, ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, the idea that the emerging embryo in a mother's womb goes through all of the evolutionary phases. So at one point, it's a fish, then a frog, and eventually a fetus. Now, we know that something else is true, and that is the embryo has full personhood from the moment of conception. That's not a theological conclusion.
This is completely irrelevant to evolution and does not pertain to any of the arguments that he's making, and yet these claims are still independently absurd. What is personhood, and how can you possibly scientifically tell that an embryo has personhood at the moment of conception? These are not actual scientific or biological terms, and the blind assertion that this is not a theological conclusion is insane because it quite literally is a theological conclusion.
That's plain old experimental evidence, and we ought to be able to communicate that. The C stands for chance. In other words, that which happens without purpose. And what is the chance that an egg, a human egg, is a function of mere random processes? The statistical probability for that renders it not only implausible, but impossible. And then the E stands for
more blind assertions without the slightest hint of elaboration. The man literally says statistics and does not elaborate. There's nothing else to even talk about because he provided nothing to go off of.
Empirical science, and in that section in the flip chart, I actually, in a memorable fashion, give you all of the information demonstrating that empirical science militates against the evolutionary hypothesis.
Here he is purposely putting down the theory of evolution by relegating it to a hypothesis. Him using these terms so loosely demonstrates how little he knows about the subject matter. It is the theory of evolution, not the hypothesis of evolution.
And undergirds the creation model for origins, and we can safely say
there is no creation model. If there was a creation model, you'd be able to test observable phenomena with it, but since there is none, you can't.
Say, in an age of scientific enlightenment, that there's nothing more scientific or scripturally correct than in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Again, the flip chart, I'm really excited.
In what world is that possibly scientific? I mean, at least with other creation videos, they at least get creative with their deception and misunderstandings. But this guy just straight up lies to my face.
Excited about it. Memorable keys to the farce of evolution, 4x6. You can put it in a pocket or a purse, and it doesn't wear out. But through it, you can internalize for yourself, for your kids, for family members or friends, why evolutionism simply is untenable in an age of scientific enlightenment. And remember, this is not just a approach.
And this clown has to end the video by dropping the evolutionism, which is not even a word. They try to make it seem like the theory of evolution is on par with religions and belief systems, but it's not. Adding ism to the end of something you don't like does not make it less true.
Apologetic issue. It's the apologetic issue. How one views their origins ultimately will determine how they live their life. It's part of our Three Great Apologetic Issues series. We'll talk about others later on in other videos, but again, you can get this on the World Wide Web at equip.org. Leave your questions there. We'll get to as many as we possibly can.
Well, there goes another few minutes of my life that I won't be getting back. I'm sorry for making you all endure the nonsense spurted by these clowns, but I hope you all had a good laugh with me. Until next time.